that didn't go the way I planned there, because I was hoping I'd be able to do that without stopping the camera, because I don't want to have to edit, but I may have to figure out how that works with the phone app, because I've uploaded the others from the phone. Anyway, we'll find out, shall we? We'll find out. At any rate, suffice it to say, back to the whole, why be psychic, and what's reality, and how does reality work, and all of that. The big questions. I have to think that, as we are in this perspective, we have that perspective. We can't really escape it completely, but we can broaden it. We can imaginatively. Boy, that was a lot of poop, guys. I'm just saying, that was really, he's got to feel a lot better right now. Feel better, Hammy? Yeah. He's got to mark that tree. Perspective, yes. Brain fart. Yeah, we're gonna find the ability to expand our perspective, and hopefully, if we're lucky, we can begin to see the ways in which our perspective is obfuscated because of our prejudices and our biases, and those impact us, right? They're going to impact our ability to see truth. And truth is rarely one thing or another. It generally falls along a spectrum. The more perspectives there are that come towards a particular truth or idea, the more we're going to find that spectrum has an infinite number of points along which that truth is possible. It sounds very technical, but it's probably the most mathematical way of representing a highly complex idea that's at least hopefully a little bit straightforward, right? So, for example, if we want to talk about racism and how that applies to truth, okay? Some people in our country right now would say that the removal of this Columbus statue was the removal of a truth, right? That Columbus is the person who discovered our country. You can see I have a different perspective on this, right? Sorry, I didn't think I was going to laugh so hard at my own joke. But or at least my own attempt at an illustration, which is supposed to be a joke. Some people view that as a truth. We could say that what we know now, at this moment in time, that falls along a particular end of the spectrum. Okay. Yeah. Then there are some who are going to say, that he initiated a genocide against an entire continent of people, or perhaps even two entire continents of people, through his presence and his greed and his desire to do things. There will be then further others who will say, it's wrong to remove the statue because of this and this and this. There will be some who say, I've been in this park for years. I don't have any particular opinion about things one way or another, but it upsets me that I don't see something familiar every day. And I'm going to keep that perspective to myself because I don't want to risk offending someone who's really hurt by this. Okay, those would all be forms of the truth that fall at various points in a spectrum. Okay. So then if we're looking at a particular moment in time where a person is going to give birth, and you've been spending a lot of time looking at different perspectives and expanding your sense of what the perspective and spectrum of truth might be, you're going to see a lot of different possibilities that could arise, whether it's conscious or not, at sorry, dog whisked me backwards, at a particular moment, right? So I'm seeing the perspective of Natalie, who's looking at the patient. I'm seeing, to some extent, the experience of the patient and her desire to have this beautiful, healthy baby. I'm also hearing various other perspectives about it from her family and friends. And somewhere in there, in that perspective soup, is maybe another truth that is maybe there's our friend again. That is maybe the truth of the soul inhabiting or preparing to inhabit that body. Or maybe it's just simply a collective truth, or the collapse of time-space in a particular moment that brings this, or that in various points in time-space that are converging. It's really hard to say. But rather than seeing it as, I'm this person having this experience that's psychic, which is actually a very limited egoic perspective. I've got this perspective about this baby that's going to be born, and my perspectives about this tend to be right. And what do I do with that? How do I cope with that truth? How do I measure it and plan it and deal with it and experience it? And should I tell the mother about this? Should I keep it to myself, etc.? Well, she didn't ask, first of all. But you can tell by the way I'm presenting this probably that I have a bias about it, which is, no, keep your trap shut. Nobody asked. It doesn't matter. And you're simply going to do your job and move forward, right? It hurts when it does turn out to be true. It hurts when I then sit there and think, was there anything I could do about it or could have done, to help? No. There is nothing that you can do to help. It's simply is. Sometimes it just is. Occasionally, we can receive psychic information in such a way where it's maybe asked for. Isn't this beautiful? This is the one that's been recently restored, one of the ones recently restored. It's called the Playground Pavilion. I just love it. Love all of them, but yeah, this one is just, it's a stunner. It's a stunner. Yeah, suffice it to say, sometimes you can do nothing. And yes, cultivating a heart and a mind that are large and hopefully expansive enough to see and include as many perspectives of truth as possible, as well as the truth of nature and life itself, might mean that from time to time these experiences happen when they're not sought after, when they're not asked for, or when they are extremely inconvenient. That happens a lot. I rarely speak about it, I rarely ever speak about it. Frankly, the majority of the time, what I see or hear or understand or suddenly know has very little, there's just very little reason to share it with anyone. There just isn't. What good would it do? It really doesn't do any good. And I don't have any vested interest in, I don't have any vested interest in it for the sake of, I know something you don't know, right? Again, I don't know why I find that so funny. It does, but that doesn't help anything, right? It doesn't help anything. And sometimes that perspective, as clearly or as loud as it might be, is wrong. It turns out to be complete bunk. Complete and utter bullshit. So, this is why sometimes we read the tarot for someone and it turns out wrong. I've had 2 situations recently where that happened, and both of them were in love readings. Someone came to me desperately upset. Don't do it, Henry. You can see him looking at that other dog. Where the person came to me very upset and distressed and wanting more than anything to find that their loved one who they were highly invested in would, come back to them. And so they were coming to these readings saying, I just want the truth. I just want the truth. I just want to know, will my loved one come back to me? Yes or no, because I need to pull it together and move on with my life. And in both of these situations that I'm referring to, these 2 individuals sought the insight and perspective of, between, say, 5 and maybe 15 different readers or psychics. And one was a life, like a real life client, and the other was a client on the lines, the line that I read on, that a lot of people, I think, actually in the tarot community who read the lines may read on. But it, look around, you'll find us. We're just not under our regular names. And in both cases, the situation came out where it was very clear. I mean, I couldn't read the cards another way. Against my own, I guess, gut instinct or gut perspective of yes, no. The cards themselves, after using my regular rituals and shuffling, came out as, yes, it will work out. Here's how it will work out. Here's the procedure by which things could work out. And of course, we know, a lot of us who have been doing this for a while, we know that that's not always, there are many options are possible. I try to read for as many of those options that are possible as I can. But in both cases, it really looked like it was not only possible, but the likely outcome. So why? Why would that happen? Why would it be so wrong and wrong in such a powerful way? And thankfully, both of these people came back to say, this was wrong and I'm upset and I'm distressed and I don't know why. Everybody came back saying the same thing. Every single one came back and said, yes, it'll work out. Now, I can't speak for the other readers that these clients went to. I don't know them. I don't know who they are. I can tell you that I do feel the majority of the people that I hold as colleagues are actually very good and very reputable, and very, very adept at what they do. And that said, I always say that because I do believe that to be the case. And I also said, I don't know the answer to that. It also disturbs me. I'm also disturbed by it. It's really upsetting to me as well. I don't know. I will say, and this was the truth, in both cases, the cards that came out completely surprised me. And I also shared that information with each of these people. The cards that have come up really surprised me because as a human being, as a person, my first gut instinct was this. This was what I saw initially in my head. But when I pulled the cards, this is what I'm getting. And because I trust, and I do, what is said here, I'm going to go ahead and read what I'm seeing. So I did. And in that way, both perspectives were offered. But of course, the one that was really remembered and held on to was the perspective offered by the cards. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's where I place the emphasis. It's what I tend to trust. It feels to me like it's more objective. So why would it come out and say that this person, why would it go out and say the exact opposite of what was actually going to happen? I have a perspective or a thought on that as well, which is what I shared with these two people. And that is, it came out that way because their perspective on the situation, which is informed by their needs and their desires. And we all know, I think we do, that love and the desire to be loved and to be lovable, to be needed and wanted, goes back to such a deep and profound developmental level within all of us that it's one of the most dominant needs that we have as human beings beyond food and shelter and clothing. To be loved, to be validated as worthy in some way, but mostly in the way of, this is the object of my love and affection. More than anything on earth, I desire for this object of my love and affection to love me the most, right? And that is, certainly for me, for years, that was so dominant that I would go to psychic after psychic after psychic after psychic, begging, what's happening? Why won't he love me? What's wrong with me? Will I find love, etc., etc. Only to be told, yes. Or is it most often was, oh darling, yes, I can see it very clearly here. What's going on is this and this and this. And it was, it's usually there were a lot of psychics. I used to see were in South London when I lived there. It was a terrible accent. Sorry, guys. It's been a while since I've had it in my mouth. But it was that would come out over and over and over again, and it was always wrong. It was never once right. It was always wrong, because until I healed what needed healing within myself, I couldn't see truth, because my own perspective of desire was so great that the truth of that moment could only be what I desired. Now, I know that has a lot of implications for magic. It has a lot of implications for what about the law of attraction, etc. I know I've just opened Pandora's box with that statement. And I'm probably not going to try and tackle that right now or at all, unless people say, wait a minute, come back, tackle that. And I'll have to contemplate it and think about how that actually works and what I want to say, or if there's anything much to say that's of any use. But sometimes the desire to have a particular situation go the way we want it, where the truth is that is not where that situation is intended to go. It is not intended to go in a particular way, or the way that we want. It is impossible for any other truth to be visible until that truth has been shattered, right? Or dismantled. Maybe that's a better, we tend to experience it as shattering. But dismantled is probably the more closer to the reality of that truth. Once it's dismantled, and the grief and the emotion and anything else that we're attached to is cleared, truth becomes easier to see. But one area of life I have learned, anyway, for myself, is that one of the hardest places to see truth is around the things we most desire to be true, that we most need to be true, and where we are unwilling to detach in order to see a bigger picture. That might help actually answer some of the Pandora's box stuff. The attachment is in part, the attachment to outcome is in greater part the problem. Yeah. Anyway, this has gone on far long enough. Look at that tree. I love it when they're so squiggly like that. Yeah. Anyway, ideas about truth, right? What is the truth? We don't know. Actually, that's a great way of getting to the truth, not to know. To be willing to not know anything in any particular moment. In order for whatever's there to make itself known is a great way to begin to see the truth. In Zen, we call it unknowing mind. And so you practice, what is it? Don't know, don't know, don't know. Or, as I used to do, because one school of Korean Zen that I was a part of did what is it, don't know, or only don't know as a practice, which I have some attachment and perspectives too, and frankly, the other one was just simply, what is it? Over and over and over again. And that was the actual teacher who actually came from Korea, would say, what is it? Unknowing mind. Keep an unknowing mind. What is it? And so that was a practice. We would do it in meditation while we were sitting. And we had a song of meditation about unknowing mind that he had written. And as flawed a human being as he was and is, it is a root practice that has really stayed with me very deeply ever since, because it was effective. It was very useful. So I offer that one out this morning here as we go into our lives and into our day of not knowing. Yeah, so may my best friend arrive safely. She's coming in today, and we're going to spend the weekend hanging out, which is great because we haven't been able to do that since she had babies 8 years ago. So there we are. Have a beautiful day, friends. Bye.